Hello, hello, and welcome to the Angels in Politics broadcast. I am your creative and artistic manifestation of Angels in Politics, a white collar goon. And we will continue with our series depicting my own Kundalini awakening. First and foremost, have you had your breakfast? What about your lunch? Okay, this is okay, actually. This is really okay. Right now, I'm just on this juice that I made, and it's really good, actually. One of the better juices. Some of them, maybe not so much. Actually, most of them are really good. All of them are good, but this is just really, really nice. So there's avocado in there, of course. Kale in there, of course. I won't say avocado, of course, because I don't have it in there all the time, but it does. The avocado with the banana, that mix is amazing, and it's really healthy. But yeah, banana, tangerine, apple, red apple, not just green. Um, Strawberries are in there. Maybe that could be the grittiness that I like, the texture. Lemon, turmeric, wheatgrass, ashwagandha powder. Apple cider vinegar, of course. Hot water, hot water. Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty much the kitchen sink is in this. It's in this cup, this bottle, and it's really good. But that's pretty much where I'm at with it, and I'm just digesting it. I'm glad you are able to be out here with me today. It's a beautiful day, and I went on a run this morning. Let me just get into a little Surya Namaskara. Just open yourself up to the solar energy and allow that to permeate through every fabric of my being, right? My spiritual self, my higher self, my active self, my passive self, the emotional self, just your inner self, even your outer too. Your outer is clearly feeling it, as you can see. The beam on my forehead is quite bright. But boom, let me get into it. Like, I'm not necessarily sure whereabouts I left off yesterday when I was speaking to you about the awakening. Okay, so boom. I told you that, what Kundalini was, in my opinion, the awakening of the awakening of of God that is within you. I will say that today. The awakening of your spiritual self, your higher self, is really the bridge of your conscious and subconscious, your the yin and then your yang, your shadow self, and I guess the light that is within you. And I guess I'll speak to that because somebody might think, wow, if you're awakened, if you're enlightened, if you're on your path or your journey to actualization or realization, then why are you talking about the darkness? Why are you depicting the dark night of the soul? Why do you need to go through these dark periods? And Jordan Peterson speaks about this, and he says, in order for a person to be able to obtain optimal resilience in their life, they must face that, whatever that is in their life that they have that they deeply don't want to encounter. Basically, you must look where you don't want to look. You must do what you don't want to do. You must come to grips, come to terms, face the facts of whatever fear, insecurity, inadequacy, shortcoming, let me reiterate, fear that you have in your life. And that 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, 11 times out of 10 will provide you with the tools and the confidence and the resilience or the resiliency to step out and to ascend up that ladder of self-actualization, because we all have demons within. We all have our we all have our own dragons to slay. we have our own, you know, dark energy. We have our own shadow energy. We have our own. We have something or things within our lives that we aren't necessarily too happy about, right? I mean, some people are going to be completely all the way like, oh, I'm perfect and my life is perfect and my emotions are perfect. Social, my emotional intelligence is optimal. My social intelligence, my positive intelligence, my my whatever, everything, they are just clicking and firing off on all cylinders. And if you are that way, God bless, you know. But for the most of us who are able to be honest about our own transgressions, we can admit it's like, yo, like I do get jealous often, I do get envious, or I am aggressive overly, you know, or I am, you know, violent sometimes. I am vitriolistic sometimes. I do hold on to grudges sometimes. I do judge people sometimes. And when I mean sometimes, I mean like often. Like whatever your pitfalls, just think about like a straight line and having these deep like these dips into like a canyon, and these dips are pretty much your ways of like, hey, I came up short there, you know. I wasn't the best brother, I wasn't the best sister, I wasn't the best daughter, son. I at all times I wasn't the greatest boyfriend or girlfriend or mother or father or husband or wife or employee or employer or boss. I mean, be real with yourself and be authentic, because I think what the Kundalini energy does is it it allows you to explore your authenticity. It's the exploration of your authenticity is where your genuine spiritual higher self, that inner Christ that is within you, that is within all of us, can fully shine and permeate and explode through your crown chakra, explode through your pineal gland, explode through your heart chakra, explode through your throat chakra, where we have our what's the term that I'm looking for? Well, I'll think of it later. But well, it deals with their, you know, your metabolism, and it regulates, you know, your hunger and your metabolism, you know, that type of thing. But your anyways, you know, this types of, you know, your inner self, your higher self, your enlightened self is perfect. All right. And when I say perfect, it doesn't mean like, hey, you won't forget to call somebody sometimes, or you won't, you know, have you won't make mistakes. It's like, of course you're gonna make mistakes. You're a normal person, but you have to face the darkness before you can get into the light, and you have to bathe in the darkness. In my opinion, you're gonna have to bathe in the darkness. You're gonna have to wallow in the darkness. You're gonna have to be surrounded and swallowed up, like fully immersed in your darkness. I'm not telling you just to walk into somebody's cave or walk into some, you know, dark forest and just say, oh, this is gonna be my Kundalini awakening. Like, no, that's not. I mean, you can, but like, I doubt that's gonna help you too much. Your darkness is within you. Your demons are within you. You don't have to go around and start knocking on some doors to find evil, to find the demons, to find the dragons to slay. Trust me, they're already here. They were here. They were here. They were coming out here. All right. Sometimes they were coming out down there too. All right. So it's like a lot of those things I had to come to terms with. So let's get back to it. So boom, I was talking to you about the dark night of the soul, and if you have to face your darkness, somebody will say, well, Gabe, what was your darkness? What were my pain points? It's almost like whenever you're dealing with like you have your own consulting company, or you're marketing something to some business, like you're selling them software or something. You have to figure out what your target audience is. You got to figure out what their pain points is. Like, what are your challenges? What are your shortcomings? How can we help you? And that's what the Kundalini was. Kundalini was like awakening and rectifying and correcting all of my pain points. And ego was the hugest one. The misidentification of the ego was the cause of most peoples or most human beings suffering, in my opinion. And what I mean by the misidentification of the ego is because that's the part of yourself that you might think is true to you, but yeah, it's what fuels your desires. It's what fuels your 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 impulses. There's a part of you that's telling you you deserve, you need this. You know, I needed people, I needed attention, I needed to be validated, and validated in the sense of me being cool, me being a quote unquote hip or modern or just dope in every sense of the term. Like I needed that validation from the outside world that I was a ladies man, and from the outside world I mean from ladies, right? So I mean when I mean and this the term is like the term that I was given when I was at the ashram was a parigraha, but that's like the non-covetousness, the non-greed, the non-hoarding. And I was greedy and I was hoarding, but I wasn't hoarding in the materialistic sense. I wasn't hoarding in the political sense, like, oh, I want these people around me or I want these items around me. It was more so like I wanted the attention. You know, I wanted to dominate the room. I wanted to dominate the party, the social scene. I wanted to have all eyes on me because I loved it when eyes were on me. I wanted, I didn't want a girlfriend. I wanted 100 girls. I didn't want, this girl to like me or that girl to like me. I wanted that whole friend group to be, feeling some kind of way when they met whoever the fuck I thought I was, right? The so it was the ego that was providing, or it was the ego that was tallying. It was almost like a check mark, and there was all these checks that were going off in my head that was like, trying to keep up with, you know, how I place value on myself, how I was confident within myself because of the women I dated or the women I spent time with or the parties that I was able to, like, you know, host or be a part of, or the social gatherings or the this, that, and the third. It was almost like I was keeping track of my accomplishments, and that's how I felt accomplished. I felt accomplished when I could be that person who had the drinks and had the smoke and had the venue and had the women and of course when you got the women, then all your homies want to be around you and all these guys want to hang out with you, and I like to be the centerpiece. I like to be the integral component to a function. I want it to be like, oh, it's not a real party, it's not a real event until I show up, until I walk in like I'm some 1986 Dougie Fresh or some shit. And it's like I wasn't I wasn't any of those things, I wasn't any of those things. And maybe at a point in time I thought I was cool, and I guess that's what I guess that's what's important. How do you feel about yourself, right? So in my head I was thinking, oh man, I'm a cool guy, and I got cool clothes, whatever the fuck that is, and I was walking around with the big gold stud earrings and the gold nugget watch that was passed down from my dad, and it was passed down from his older brother who passed away in the late 80s because he lived a fast lifestyle back in the day, and I was emulating that. I was not emulating his lifestyle, but I was emulating just the fast track, fast pace. Like my life is like I'm on the Autobahn in Germany. Like you can't keep up with me. There's no speed limits. There's nothing that's holding me back. I'm talking to whatever women I want to talk to. I'm walking around the events with the champagne bottle, fucking glass. I want the whole bottle in my hand and I'm drinking out of it. I'm meeting women, and I could care less about what they're saying because it's all about me, and that was that was how I was functioning for a really long time. And, whenever I came back to the States, because I did a lot of that party and I had a lot of that, I got a lot of exposure. I was exposed to a lot whenever I was living in Asia. So me teaching overseas for 2 years helped a lot. Well, I'm not gonna say it helped. It transformed my life. I mean, it was my life would never be the same because of that. And it was a good thing that I had those experiences. But when I came back, I remember talking to my friend about like whatever the case may be, like maybe the fact that I was feeling inadequate because I'm living at my parents' place. I wasn't working. I was, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have any women around. There was one girl who like showed me a little bit of rhythm. She was a friend of my homies. My homie had a girlfriend at the time, and it was the friend of the girlfriend. And I was trying to, I was thinking I was tough shit, and I remember trying to hook up with her, and she wasn't having it. And I remember she was like stormed out of my place and like just was like, "Yo, fuck you, nigga. Like I'm not fucking with you. You're fucking like you ain't shit." I mean, all these types of things. And I'm thinking like, "Oh, it's her loss." Like, yo, who is she? Like, I don't have to like, you know, I don't have to correct what I have to do. I don't have to change who I am for any person. Like, this is me raw, and this is my genuine self, and this is me in my uninhibited, unadulterated fashion. Like, this is just who I am. And if you can't fuck with who I am, then maybe it's not for you. And that was kind of like my ethos. That was the pathos. That was all of the oses, logos. It was just like, I was living it. I was breathing it. I was, I wasn't praying at the time. I wasn't that close to God, particularly whenever I was overseas and clubbing every day, drinking every day, rolling my weed with hash every morning and afternoon and at night. Like, all of that shit was my life. I was drinking when I came back home. Yeah, I started going to church with my parents because I had to, but I don't think I was really actively seeking God. I wasn't seeking His face. I wasn't seeking His word. I wasn't trying to live by the doctrines. I still was in the backyard rolling up every day, drinking a bottle of wine a night, like like literally, like in one sitting, could go through a bottle of wine, and then sometimes that led to some beers afterwards, and then that led to me being, naked in my room doing yoga. I mean, like a whole lot of shit was going down. And I don't think anything's wrong with naked yoga. Maybe you shouldn't be blacked out when you do it. It's like, a lot of things were going on, and this wasn't necessarily the night of the dark night of the soul. This was just these factors. And I'll speak to the breakdown of my physical self. A lot of these things that I mentioned, my ego, that was the inner self, that was the emotional self. But physically, like, I didn't know I was undergoing an awakening process, but like literally, like, my body was breaking down. My thyroid, that was what I was mentioning. My thyroid felt like it was off. My regulating my hunger was completely skewed. I mean, in one sitting I could go through, I mean, even still now, like mountains of food. Like, I'm talking plate upon plate. And it's one thing when you hear it from somebody in your family, it's another thing when you hear it from a friend. But like literally everywhere I was going, like when I was working on this cruise ship, people were like, "Yo, I never," like, people repeatedly, incessantly were telling me like, "Yo, Gabe, like, how do you eat so much?" Like, it was just food upon food upon food in one sitting. It was just like one body could like consume so much, and like people were looking at me like, "Yo, how are you doing this shit?" Like, almost like, this is like, "Do you have a tapeworm?" And I was thinking maybe I did, because I didn't really feel all the way full. I could drink like a fucking fish. I mean, at the same time, the next day I was having like these bad like hangovers, but I mean, some of them, like, I didn't have hangovers after a while. I felt like I was getting my tolerance up, right? So I was drinking heavily, eating heavily. Then I started developing these headaches, and at first I thought it was like, "Oh, maybe you just have a headache because you drank 6 Guinnesses last night and 2 gin and tonics, and you took a shot of fucking Jameson, and next you know somebody was handing you Jaeger, and then you blacked out, and you can't count how many you had after that, right?" So I was like, maybe this is the reason why I have a headache. But then the headaches continued, and there were like prolonged headaches for like months, and my serotonin was low, and I was starting to not feel as you know, I wasn't feeling myself. I wasn't feeling as upbeat. I wasn't feeling as jovial, as euphoric as I normally was. And serotonin was low, cortisol was high, food regulation, drinking regulation was off kiltered, throbbing pains in my head. Periodically, one side of my ear would be blocked, so it was like I would hear this side, but this side would be not functioning, or it was almost as if like when you swim, when you go in the water and you have some water stuck in your ear and you're trying to, you know, hold onto your nose and blow so you can open it up. And I was doing that for a few days, and then that lasted for weeks, and it will go away, then it will come back. So I'm like, what's going on with my ear? Then I was having these styes, or these lesions, or whatever the fuck it's called. Like, they were called like calzones or something like that, but it was like almost like a pimple or acne, but it was inside of my eyelid. And I was thinking, like, is it a soap I'm using? Is it a shampoo I'm using? No, it will go on one ear, it will go on one eyelid, and it will literally like be so huge, sticking out. It just wasn't a good look. It was irritating because I wear contacts, so you're like blinking like this. And it would go through both eyes. Like, I would have it. I went to the doctor. They were telling me, oh, you're just gonna have to put some heating pad on, put a hot cloth on it, and it'll go away. And then after a few weeks, it'll go to the other eye. And it's like, I'd never had it in my life. Never had it in my life until I started working on the cruise ship. And I felt like it had something to do with drinking. I don't know. Like, so the food, the headaches, the eyes, the ears. Oh, and the most important, couldn't have sex. All right, so it's like, you know, and that's the wildest thing. And I guess I'll end it on this, and we'll go to part 3 later. But that was my biggest thing. Like, I remember dropping my videos, and you can see it in my old YouTube videos, and if you go back in the history, I was dropping my initial videos, my initial vignettes, like vignettes, vintage, and I was mentioning how I was having dreams, or I was waking up from my dreams, and I was coming. I was having, I can't even call them orgasms. Like, I would literally have semen in my fucking boxer briefs or something, but like in my dreams there was nothing sexual that was happening. And then when I woke up, I didn't have any erections, so it was like I was able to ejaculate without having erections, and not even having any type of sexual thoughts or intimate actions. I would just be waking up in the morning. It's like, did I have a wet dream? It's like, in order to have a wet dream, there has to be something that to get you wet. I had to be into something that was wet for me to have a wet dream. It would be like, and whatever the case may be, I noticed something was off. I mean, I guess you don't know until it takes its toll on you. But healthily as a man, you're supposed to wake up in the morning, and it's more prevalent when you're a teenager. But even actually, it's supposed to be prevalent now, no matter what age you are. But men are supposed to wake up with these normal. It's very normal, and it's for your regulation of your body and blood and your health. But you're supposed to have these erections when you wake up in the morning, and it had been years. Years, and I didn't notice it until in 2017. I'm like, damn, I don't really have morning woods. I don't have the morning erection. And then at night, normally before I go to bed, I would have an erection. It's almost about like relaxing the body. I would be able to just have that blood flow, and it'll be natural. Not even if I thought about what I want to do with some lady, it would be just having some blood flow. And I wasn't it wasn't happening. And I was trying to hook up with, I wasn't trying to hook up with anything around here, but, whenever I was working on the cruise ship, I called myself having some quote unquote lady friends. And first time I'm trying to do something, no blood flow. Second time I try to do something, no blood flow. Third time, homegirl just had to pull up on me. It was like, yo, so what's your issue? Like, what's going on? Is it me? Are you not attracted to me? Is it something that I did? And it's like, no, it's not. And I ended up going to the doctor again. I mean, okay, let's put it this way. When my body was breaking down, I didn't know I was having a Kundalini awakening. I just thought yo, this might be what's going on. I mean, am I supposed to be checking? Am I checking out anytime soon? It's like I can't get an erection. I think I have low testosterone. I have these splitting headaches. I can't see out of one eye. I mean, I could see, but I was having visions with the problems with my eye. I was thinking I had high blood pressure because I couldn't regulate my intake of food. I couldn't. I mean, there was times where I would drink water and I would still feel like parched, as if I didn't really taste the water, as if it didn't register to me that I was drinking the water. Like, so many things were happening. So many things were going on that I could not explain, and I'm like, what the fuck is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? And I say all that to say that was God's way of telling me, like, I need to renounce. There needs to be a renunciation. I need to renounce my ways or my pathologies or the way that I was being wired, the way I was being conditioned, the way I was acting, the way I was projecting myself, the way I was the way I was conducting myself had to change. And God probably was giving me so many instances to change in the past. He gave me free will. He gave me my competence, whatever that is, or my intelligence or industriousness, but I wasn't putting it together. I wasn't triangulating those competencies to really say what is the right move for me. And he said, well, there's a way that I can get you to learn. There is a way I can get you to change. And once he took the erections, once he took the sexual energy, once that went away, and it's been away for years. Once that went away, it was forcing me to say, okay, so since I can't chase women anymore because I can't do anything with them, since I can't think about having sex anymore because it's not like I can masturbate because I literally can't get an erection. I mean, all of these types of things I had to rewire my brain. Top down activation had to be changed, and that is whenever I was able to start to relax and allow that twin serpent, that twin flame, that Kundalini energy to fully electrify my body and move. Namaste and namaskar.